Look, this is the first inaugural podcast, Guided by Purpose, with me, Christopher Farnath, and with Jamie Robinson. What a fantastic start, and big call out to Studio Bank in Wolverhampton for allowing us to do our first session here at this marvellous recording studio. And thank you, Theo, for being on the camera and the recording. So today, what we're talking about being guided by purpose. So that opens us up to what the heck's our purpose. So this is really where we're going with this first podcast, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, 100%. This is just an introduction into how we've discovered this title, Guided by Purpose.
Yeah.
But what is the purpose?
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to start
Yeah.
today. So I'll propose the question to you.
Okay, I mean, I think the big thing for me, and the whole reason why I'm wanting to do this podcast, is that I have a particular brand of thinking, which is to pay it forward to people who are now up and coming in their careers, what they are likely to experience, and the sort of things that I am trying to do is make their lives easier by explaining the pitfalls that I've been through and, the scars that I've earned from doing things probably the wrong way, but learning from it. I like to say I'm a quick learner by things. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that with this podcast, it gives an opportunity for those people who take the time to stay with us to actually hear stuff that is actually top tips, how to get round stuff. So if you have a problem, what are the things that, from our experience, we would suggest that people would do? So for me, that's one of the purposes of getting us together. But there's so many things. I'm sure you've got more.
Yeah, no, I mean, on that, Chris, you've mentioned you've been through many different experiences there, and you've learnt the pitfalls, and you want to help people not go through those pitfalls. Let's have an introduction into to you, really, and the experience that you've had in your life, and what's led you to this point. Yeah,
I mean, I'm classic sort of been in business for many years, 20 something plus, I'm not going to say, but I have been around technology services has been probably where my brand has been created, working on the client side, providing our customers, business to business customers, with great customer experience. So my previous two roles have been chief customer officers within software companies. But I've worked across a whole range of different industry sectors. I've worked in telecoms, I've worked in health sector, I've worked in education sector, I've worked in transport sector, I've worked in retail sector. All of these sectors have exactly the same thing when you're talking about business, and that is people. They want the same experience. They want the best experience they can have. So my background and training has been around how to develop that. And really the sort of experiences I've had, I've been very lucky in the types of jobs that I've had. Travelled a lot around the world, been to 34 different countries on work. In terms of the places I've been to 5 of the 7 continents. I still have on my bucket list to go to Antarctica and South America. I'm not sure I'll get there, but who knows. And lived in America for a couple of years, which was great experience. So particularly at the time I was there. So I was in California in 2000 to 2002. So if you think about what happened in 2001, 9/11, and all the other stuff that happened as a result of the internet bubble bursting at that time. So it was a fascinating time to be there. Seen a lot of changes. And now, going fast forward to today, I'm set up my own business. I've been doing that for essentially 5 years, but my last 2 years have been under Service Instinct Limited. And I am providing career coaching. So helping people who are in the jobs that I've done accelerate their careers, earn more money, get to the next step, but understanding how they can get around those things. So tackling the big questions should I work longer and harder to get noticed? No. You've just got to stand out. You've got to know what to do. So this is why it made sense for me to join with you, because I wrote that book, which is sitting on the desk, about recruitment. It's about seeing it from the perspective of being something that is a team leader within a business who wants to build a team that is full of champions. And that then leads me to thinking, well, if you've got a group of champions around you, and this is where it reflects on you, by the way. So I know it's got to get the boasts in and stuff already. But the purpose of it is, if you surround yourself with people who raise you, you show and project your way forward, and that's the logic. So for me, that's my intro. Yeah. So let's hear yours, Jamie.
Yeah. No. Before I go into myself, I want to go a little bit before that, with yourself. Obviously, that's your professional career, which is very impressive, and I know you've gained a lot, travelled all over the world with that. But something you mentioned earlier, which I didn't know before that, around growing up, finding your feet. You said you were doing being a pilot, and then we're like, oh, I don't know about that. Went into something else, because that also shapes who you are and your experiences. So, I'm going to go back down to that level. So be interesting to know that story as well.
Yeah, I mean, fascinating for other people, perhaps. For me, it's just the way I was brought up. I mean, we both at the same school, so we both know Technical College was a school that pushed you. I never had any doubt that I was going to do something daft because I always wanted to do whatever was the hardest. So somebody once said to me, the hardest musical instrument to play is the French horn. So I thought, right, I've got to learn how to play the French horn. So I learned to play French horn. Somebody said, the hardest thing to do is to run a marathon. So I thought, right, I've got to run a marathon. So I ran a marathon. And then it was like, the hardest thing to do if you've never been up in an airplane is to jump out of one. So I did a parachute jump. Actually, that's my icebreaker. If you ever go into one of these team meetings, the icebreaker is, who's the person in the room that the first time they went up in an airplane, they didn't land in it? That was me, because I actually jumped out at Halfpenny Green Airport.
That's
the very first time I flew.
Wow.
And that was bold, but I knew those were the sort of things that I was going to do. So once I jumped out of a plane, I wanted to learn to fly. My dad was a fighter pilot, as you know, so I wanted to do that. So I joined the Air Training Corps and I did the flying through them. And bizarrely, I learned to fly at Turnhill, which is, I think it's an army base now, but it was an RAF base. And I flew solo within 4 hours, which I think is quite rare. My dad flew solo from the very same airbase.
Oh, wow.
20-something years earlier.
You get a lot of synchronicities.
It's insane,
I've noticed a lot of synchronicities happen with you.
Yeah, but he took 8 hours to admittedly, he then went on to fly Lightnings. I only flew gliders, so slightly different. But the thinking was that I'd do that. And I wanted to go into the Air Force once I had done all that stuff, and I thought that would be the right thing. But by the time I did all that, and I'd gone through that, and I'd been getting into my 18, 19s and stuff, and I was having short hair the whole time, and at that stage, new romantics were in with mullets and stuff. I wanted long hair, and I wanted to have, the dyed hair and all this sort of stupid stuff like that. So that's why I decided it was time for me to change. And this is what you're talking about, which is when I became a DJ for a while, which was a bit mad. But I'd got such a massive music collection, it made sense. So I actually partnered with a friend of mine who now lives, I think, in Shrewsbury. And we set up a DJ outfit together. I was on the decks doing stuff.
So you're like, no, I don't want to fly planes.
No,
I just
that's
wanna-
it.
I
No.
just want to be a DJ.
Yeah.
And you went out to...
I did, yeah. I
Oh,
played a little bit abroad and in a few clubs, so it was great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, going on to myself then, you mentioned Technical College, and that's where our link has come from.
Yeah.
We went to the same school, but several years apart. And there's a lot of synchronicity in that through our sporting background and the trophies that we both won. But yeah, that school was a big part of my life. From Wolverhampton, that's where I was born, New Cross Hospital. Lived near Heath Town.
Okay.
And I wasn't supposed to go to Technical College, really. You know, people from Heath Town, people from that part of Wolverhampton don't go to Technical College. You know, it is a private school that has a level of entry that certain people don't have access to. So, luckily enough, you know, my fantastic parents put me first and gave me that opportunity to go there. And I didn't know any different growing up. It's just a school that I went to, and that was that. But it's interesting how important that has been for the rest of my life. Now I've gone into business in recruitment, which is another reason why we're syncing up. A lot of those connections from the school are starting to come back.
Okay.
And make sense to sort of one of the purposes of, I think, why my parents sent me there. But yeah, so Technical College I was there from, I think, year 1 all the way to sixth form. And I was a day boarder, so it literally was my life. I had breakfast there. I did my homework at school, which was interesting. And then I was, left when I was 18. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was always good at sport. Always good at football, athletics.
Yes.
Which is sort of what drove me forward, was the sport and was the athletics. So I did pretty well in athletics, got national medals for 400 metres. Decent records from the school, which is what pushed me to take it seriously. A guy called Peter Radford, who went to the Olympics, as you know.
Bronze medalist, wasn't he?
Got a bronze medal for the 100 metres, or was it yards there?
Yeah.
Something like that. But I broke his record, and that's sort of from the school, and that's sort of what pushed me to take that more seriously. Went to Winchester University on a scholarship for the athletics, and that's it's why I went to uni, really. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the Olympics. I didn't have any other goal in mind. I didn't care about business. I didn't care about money. I didn't.
So your purpose back then was about becoming an elite athlete?
Yeah, that's all I cared about until I was probably 22, 23, but about 22. And then, when you start getting older and more mature to the world, I realised, having an income, having a career was important. So I decided to walk away from athletics. Few things happened at the time, injuries, etc. And then was like, right, how am I going to take this passion and hard work and knowledge that I've learned from athletics and channel that into a career? I thought, it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
If I can run around, it's going to be absolutely a piece of cake. I'm training 6 days, 7 days a week, twice a day.
Okay.
In the winter, it's -3 degrees. I'm doing 8 by 300 meter reps, dying on the ground.
So just to say,
translate that into business.
So you were clarifying that in terms of the discipline of you doing that work.
Yes.
Therefore, if you apply it to business, it'll be easy.
Yes, that was my
Okay.
that was my mindset.
Okay.
And you know, it was pretty bang on actually. You know, it served me well. But obviously, there's a lot of things that I've had to learn since then, which is also important in business. You can't just be an absolute bull in a china shop. There's got to be some finesse. But then there is also some finesse in the sporting world. So it is very, very, very relatable.
Yeah.
So then I went into that recruitment world, learnt the ropes, did pretty well, worked with some really cool businesses all over the world. My first placement.
Why did you choose recruitment?
Why did I choose recruitment? I chose recruitment. Well, a few people were going into recruitment from athletics, and I saw they were doing really well. They were living in London, you know, living the life. I saw on social media they're going out, and I was like, oh, this is nice. Let me explore this. So I went to a few interviews down in London. I remember this very well. This company called Faden International, one of the biggest recruitment companies in London. It was right next to the Gherkin.
Okay.
At their offices. I walked in there, and I was like amazed. It's a massive sales floor, and it was huge. There's like 200 people in there. They're all young lads, and some young females as well. But it was a very boisterous environment that I walked into, and they were all young and but they all got nice suits on, got nice watches on, and it was just like
looking sharp.
It was like
there's a buzz.
Yeah, I was like, it reminded me of Wolf of Wall Street a little bit. I was like, I like this.
Okay.
And that was it.
And this is when you were, what, 22, 23?
At 22,
yeah.
And that was it. I was absolutely sold. They didn't give me the job. I did pretty well in the interview, but they stuck me on the phone, so like, phone people. And I was like, what? I didn't tell them what. So anyways, you know, that was a whole experience. I think I went to about 15 different recruitment companies and got rejected every time. Interviewed at 15, and I was like, oh, maybe it's not for me. So I then moved home.
Was that because you had no guidance on it? What was the reason?
No understanding of business at all.
Just complete naivety. You went into places that you found as opportune, and you walked in and you just tried to, you know, bluff it.
Basically, yeah. And I thought, you know,
but you got 15 chances.
Yeah. I thought if I look good, wear a nice suit, have a smile on my face, it'd be all good.
Yeah.
But you know, as I said earlier, there's certain things that you need.
You can carry certain things. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So didn't get the job after 15 attempts, and I was like, well, let me look in Birmingham to see if there's anything in there. And similar pattern. I'd interview, no one would hire me, and I was like, and then I remember my mum saying, well, why don't you go to like a lesser recruitment company or a less executive? And I was like, no, this is the level that I need to be going in at.
Right.
So I was persistent, and I eventually got the job after learning from my mistakes and learning how to interview better.
Okay.
So
that's an interesting thing.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. So you went through the pain of that. Where did you go to find out about that? Where did you hone your skills?
So this is really interesting, actually. A lot of the companies didn't give me any feedback to why I wasn't moving forward. So I wasn't improving.
Yeah.
They weren't helping me. But I remember one of the gentlemen, his name's Giacomo.
Okay.
I speak to him every now and then on LinkedIn now.
Okay.
And he really liked me, but I messed up on something. And he was like, if you'd have got that right, I'd have hired you.
Okay.
So he was like, next time when you...
But he gave you constructive feedback.
Gave me feedback.
Okay.
And then the next interview I went to, I got the job. Oh, and I implemented what...
So you were that close all the time, but nobody would tell you?
Oh, yeah, I was really close. I'd do really well in all the interviews, but something at the last hurdle I would fall down on.
Mm.
And eventually, you know, we got there. And it's interesting because now I teach people and guide people how to interview.
So your experiences that you've been through have structured how you now conduct your interview sessions.
Yeah,
Is that
massively.
right? Okay,
Massively.
There you go. First bear
Um,
trap to avoid.
Yeah. So, went through 6-year career in working at a couple of agencies. Did well, got top biller awards. Different smash records, and I was like, I'm pretty good at this, Eventually.
There you go.
So then,
how long did it take before you went from being that sort of naive person that's been to 15 interviews and got nowhere to being good at it? How long was that span?
took about 18 months.
18 months. So that fits with what I've seen in other areas as well. So you have to do something for a good amount of time. And would you say that you practice that daily, like you did with the discipline of your athletics?
Oh God, yeah. I was dreaming about it.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. So the industry
nightmares
a bit of both.
Really?
The industry that I went into was supply chain software technology. So that transportation management,
my world.
warehouse management, etc. It was completely new to me, but I got that obsessed with it. I was dreaming about it.
Do you see yourself as a bit of an obsessive person?
Yeah.
Even now?
Yeah. Like I'm on this diet at the moment. I've just eaten basically fruit for 10 weeks. Like when I do something, it gets done.
That's a really important thing in terms of when we go on to further podcasts in the future. We're going to be talking about the specific things that are particular to making your own personal brand special, and you have a particular speciality, I would say, of being disciplined, obsessively disciplined, and that's what you're known for.
Yeah.
Or let me ask you a slightly different question. Do you think that's what you're
100%. So I left a recommendation on my LinkedIn from someone that I've worked with in the past, ex-colleague and ex-client. And the way he described it was basically that, saying just relentless.
Relentless.
Just
That's interesting.
Like, give him something, it will be delivered,
Yeah.
Just get obsessed with it.
It's interesting. I think this is, again, a thing that we share in an element. I mean, I must admit that as I've got older, there's a level of comfort that I've reached. So perhaps the best way to describe it is to repeat what my mother-in-law said about me to my, at that time, fiance, now my wife. I was ferociously ambitious, which I thought was an interesting use of language, because you sort of become almost obsessed by that.
It's like
that's
you're hell-bent.
Yeah.
Like,
do you think is that a good description for you too?
Bang,
ferociously ambitious.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Like, I see no other way.
Yeah.
I can't be any other way.
But I mean, I use it a lot, which is be stubborn about your goal, but be flexible about your methodology. That's it's not my quote. Don't know where it's come from, but the bottom line is, if you know what you want and you want to go for it, be deliberate, be ferociously ambitious about it, but be aware. And this is the old Mike Tyson quote, isn't it? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Somebody's going to punch you in the face, and that will happen. And I tell you, with my experiences in life now, I've got hashtag older than your dad. I have been punched in the face a heck of a lot, but I'm still here and I'm still going. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That quote. It's something that I've found. If you're consistent about something, if you can be predictable about something to a point where people understand you, and you do stuff reliably, that becomes an element of something that people can then think of you and think of that. And I think a lot of people, when they're starting out, and you ask the question about going into, or I asked the question about why you went into recruitment. You've stayed with recruitment, and that's a really important thing, because you're now known for it. And that's because you've been consistent at it over and over for many years. And that's what makes your brand. And this is when we were talking with Mia earlier about all the different things that she was thinking about in terms of, she's got so much in life. She's good at many things. She can do lots. Therefore, she could be in any number of things. So that's a really tough part for somebody starting out. When you know you're good at a lot, what do you do?
What do you choose?
How do you become? What's your purpose? And this is why I think this podcast is actually important. Helping somebody to just think of how to get to their purpose is actually a massive step, particularly if you're young, because life will channel you. You mentioned about, you were very open and I thought very honest there when you said people where you were living don't go to technical college. Well, why don't they go to technical college if they're living there? That's because you get channeled based on your own limitations, but you went and look what's happened. So it's about what you can do. And I always think about, I could do a lot, but what was I good at? What did I enjoy doing? And you might need to practice a few things to work out what you're really good at. But your discipline is the thing that makes you become, known for something. What do you want to become famous for? If that's the end goal, But just thinking, if you're young, again, I wish I was young again. It would be great.
We're all the same age.
I know we are. Mentally, I look through these eyes, and it just feels like I'm still the same age as I was years ago. But the reality is if you need to do a number of different things to see what really resonates, what did you enjoy doing? Everything you do is a lesson, because if you do stuff and you don't enjoy it, you just chalk it off as, I'm not going to do that anymore. Do you see that? Is that something that you...
Yeah, and I think that's it. The things that you choose to do define you, but they don't define you as well. That I've gone into recruitment, I've chosen to stick at it, but it has a bigger end goal. Do you know what I mean? No, it's a platform and it's a vehicle. So those skills I still have, and I can still do other things, and I may want to do those other things later or now, and anyone can do that. And that's that. I think that leads quite well into what the purpose of this podcast is, and where we're gonna lead it. Like, what enables an individual to become successful in that area that they're working in, to then allow whatever else you're passionate about, allows you the ability to do whatever else you're passionate about.
Yeah.
So I've got something written down here. Like, if you look at some of the icons of the world, Ronaldo, Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, all these individuals, they're at the pinnacle of society, if it were. Everyone knows who they are.
Yep.
They're
sporting specific, though, aren't they?
These are sporting specific, and because that's my background.
Mm-hmm.
But there's in any walk of life, and you brought this to me before we started. These are unicorns.
Yes.
And what makes a unicorn is what we're going to discuss. So I don't know if you want to give some information on that.
Absolutely.
It's going to have a topic.
Yeah.
There's different topics that make a unicorn, and we're going to go through those and try and help ourselves improve, but also help others improve. Because I feel like if you can help yourself, people can see that, wow, this person's actually excelling in life. Wow, this person's actually doing well. They take note, and then you can then help that individual because they want to help themselves by seeking success or seeking seeking success from whatever else they see.
No, I think that that whole point about the unicorn is actually, it's like, again, just for clarity, this is a book called Be the Unicorn. I think it's by William Vanderbilt. Apologies if it's the wrong name, but I'm just trying to remember it. The purpose of that book is really to look at the characteristics that make somebody stand out. And when you look at how they came to the conclusions that they did in that particular book, it's that they have done recruitment and they looked at those successful people who then they placed at executive roles or in some characteristic, had a particular success. And they asked a whole ton of questions to them to identify what made them special. And the ones that were successful had, in this finding, in this research over many, many years, thousands and thousands of interviews, was 12 characteristics, which they identify as the 12 unicorn characteristics. And having gone through that audiobook multiple times, it really stands out as something that people can understand to how to identify with one of those characteristics to make it their own.
Something that people can resonate and strive towards, and accomplish.
Yes, I mean, when you go through it, I mean, I don't know whether you.
Yeah, I've got there's 12 characteristics written down.
Yeah, when you look at them, and I don't know whether you'll get the same experience as I did, but when I was listening to this audiobook, I was thinking, I think I'm a bit of that. Oh, I'm a bit of that as well. And there was tons of these things that I'm actually, but what is the one thing that I'm known for? I don't know, actually. And that's where it's a bit of a blind spot for, it requires others to tell me.
Yeah, should we do a little experiment?
Go on then. Start it up.
The 12 characteristics are fast, authentic, agile, solver, so it relates to problem solver.
Yep.
Anticipator, prepared, self-aware, curious, connected, likable, productive, and purpose-driven.
Yes.
So I'm going to pick maybe for you the top 3 that I think that you excel most at. And we discussed this earlier, so I don't want to be swayed by what you said earlier, but
subliminal thinking there.
I do think that's, like, you're right with what you said. Likeable for you. Likeable is who, you know what I mean? You're just a very likeable person.
There's plenty of people who dislike me, I can tell you that for sure. Talking back to the times where I've been punched in the face, not literally, but in my business. And is
it something that you've practiced, honed?
It's interesting that
just authentic. Where does that come from? Where does that likability that I feel? Fee, I don't know if you've only just met Chris today, but did you say he's likable?
Don't put him on the spot now.
He's likeable.
Yeah,
there you go.
I don't know him.
Yeah, you don't know him, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's got like just a cheeky chappy,
okay.
likeable persona.
Let's just get to the point on this. I think it's something that you have to learn. It is, I wasn't likable. I wasn't, and I know I wasn't likable. It's something you've had to do stuff. I think everybody's on the spectrum a little, and I'm certainly somebody that can get quite pedantic. And anybody who's worked with me for a long time will know. There's a side to me that isn't likable at all. I know that. So should I be admitting this on a podcast? Probably not. Probably not. So my daughter will call me fake dad. Yeah, cut it out. Fake dad. So it's sometimes when you have a learned behaviour to become somebody, to present the best of you, so that you're representing an organisation or your business or a particular stance. I think politicians try this an awful lot. It's not something I particularly aspire to be, but I know that there's a really important side of me that is to try and be likeable. Is it really me, or is it some fakeness that's in there? I think over time, if you practice it more and you're more relaxed about yourself, or you haven't got a chip on your shoulder, or you haven't got something that's holding you back, you relax. And when you relax, you become, as an outcome, likable. I think. But
No, it's interesting.
it's how you respond. So if somebody calls you an idiot, how you respond to that is entirely down to you. You can't stop them from saying it, but how you react to it, you're in control of your own emotions. A likable person will laugh it off, I would think.
It's like,
because they're confident.
I guess, in a way, if like a 5-year-old called you an idiot versus a 25-year-old called you an idiot, realistically, your reaction shouldn't change, but it does.
It does.
It's like, oh, they're a kid, so they can get. But
even so,
the same, right?
it's about. No, I think it's a day for me, and I'm not arguing with you. I am just saying that the more at ease you are with yourself,
makes sense.
The more that you're able to deal with things that come at you. And I know there are plenty of times, and I know my wife will tell you this, where I'm not likable at all when I do. Some pressure hits me at the wrong time, at the wrong thing, and I'm not in the right frame of mind, and I'm not expecting it. Perhaps at that stage, I bark.
So that ties into one of the other characteristics, being self-aware.
Yeah.
So maybe you're not likable at all. Maybe you're just self-aware. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? Self-awareness is a massive thing because it's permanently in flux, because you can think you're self-aware, and I think there's some studies that show that people who think they're self-aware at times are completely blind to something that's going on.
Yeah, so
and
true that
is. It is, and it's always in change.
Because I'm doing a lot of work on self-awareness at the moment, so I'm trying to meditate and really love this. Like, I've started to think, like, how can I start to contemplate doing anything out of this world that if I can't control this, whether this be my body or my mind and my reaction. So, yeah, what you're saying is it's aligning very well. So,
I've got one story just to mention on the self-awareness piece that I'll just wrap with on this, because it's one of my roles was the head of the services organisation at Aspect back in the day, and I would come in because I worked with people who were in America, so my day ran into the evenings, particularly on the west coast of America. So I was working until 10 o'clock at night regularly. So rather than come in for the early morning shift and have the most massive day every single day, I would come in about 10 a.m. And so people would be in the call centre. They'd all be sitting there in the call centre doing their jobs and stuff. And I would walk in at whatever time it was, 10 in the morning, and would walk into my office in front of the team. They'd see me. And I observed after a little while that when I walked into the building, because of the position I held in the business, and I was the senior guy in the region there was this sort of like disruption to the day, because people would look at me and assess things from seeing me coming in, and I didn't really work that out for a while. And if I came in and I was looking slightly just my resting bitch face, as they say, if I walked in like that, people would be worried. People would come in and they'd say, "Oh, what was wrong with Chris today? Do you think there's going to be a layoff? Oh, he didn't look happy." So I would get out of the car when I realised this self-awareness thing. I would step out of the car and I would smile, and I would come in and I'd be, "Hi there, hello," like this, and it would deliberately smile, because although it disrupted for the 5 seconds it took me to walk through the building into my office, everybody would then get on with work as if there was nothing going wrong. But if I didn't do that, oh my God, it was like, oh, what is that? And of course, bad news has its boots on before the good news gets out of bed.
I think the more you explain all of this, it's quite apparent that the self-awareness
You have to be
is
in those sort of scenarios. And if you're a leader,
high for you.
definitely, if you're a leader, you are just your physical presence amongst the people that you lead makes a massive difference. Just your demeanor, how you carry yourself, because your person reflects on all the others.
And how does that feel? Like, because there's been moments in my life where I've been down, but to show up for others, you lift yourself up
Yeah.
and you appear to others that everything's fine. But what does that do to you internally? Is it heavy? Do you feel it? Is it hard? Is it difficult to do? Do you have to psych yourself up? Like, how do you go about making that your norm?
It's a really good question. I don't know how others do it, and I would say it could have a totally different feeling for others than it does for me. But the thing for me is, I know if I'm leading a team, how I present myself is going to affect the performance of that team. Subliminally and deliberately and overtly.
Yeah.
So leadership is language, definitely. So how you communicate, how you explain things, how you listen and become involving, engaging. You know, the old classic, tell me, I'll forget, show me, I may remember, but involve me, I'll understand. That is a big, big phrase I live with a lot. So you involve people. In terms of how it feels, to me, it gives me a purpose. So going back with guided by purpose, it gives me a purpose, if I'm a leader of a team, to want to be there to make people succeed. In fact, it's become my purpose to help others. That's what I get up in the morning to do, because I've done stuff. I've achieved the majority of the goals that I set out to do when I was your age. I've been very fortunate. There are one or two on my bucket list still. I still haven't been to Machu Picchu, and I definitely want to do that, and I still want to go to Antarctica. That would then do 3 in 1, because then I'll have been to all 7 continents. That said, if I don't do that, it's not the end of the day. It's not the end of the world. But helping others succeed. I suppose it's because I've got a daughter now. She really gives me purpose. I want her to be successful, what I can bring to her to make her successful. But the reality is if there's something that you want, I'll go out and get it. But if I want others to go out and get it, I get more joy out of seeing them become successful to achieve it.
Yeah, and it all ties well into what we do.
Yeah.
Are we talking about business, or are we talking, because our business is us at this point, because this is all about people. For me, I help companies find people who are well on this journey in terms of their self-awareness, their preparation, and I align that with the company's goals, so everyone benefits. Like, that's my goal, that everyone knows their role, knows their phase where they're at in life, knows the mission, knows the journey, how long that will be, how short that will be. Everyone's on the same page, and everyone can progress, and everyone can get better. And yeah, that's the purpose of this podcast, right? We're talking about how do we improve ourselves to then help others improve, to help everyone that we come in contact with improve, and that's the purpose. So yeah, I think it's been quite a good intro so far. I don't know how far we're in.
I think we're probably at the point now where we should be wrapping anyway, and just setting expectations on our next podcast, which will be, I think I liked what you did there and say this is what you think I might be like. I'm going to do the same to you next time and come out with that, and we'll discuss that
Yeah.
next one. What makes you unique? What makes you the unicorn? So let's do that. And I just want to say thank you for sharing the first inaugural podcast with me.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Good start. So thank you.
Yeah, no, good stuff. And
Cheers.
check out Chris's book.
Thank you.
It's a good read.
On Amazon. It's got 35-star reviews, which is pretty good for my first attempt. And if you go to Amazon and look it up, it's called Champion Hires, The Art of Spectacular Recruitment.
Yeah. So the next podcast will be on one of the 12 characteristics that I mentioned. Don't know which one we're going to pick, but something that's relatable from this one. So yeah, look forward to the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie.
Good stuff, Chris.